A dark SUV cruised past former President Donald Trump's supporters near his Bedminster Golf Club in New Jersey on a windy April afternoon. Billowing from the vehicle were 3 flags, one for the Trump campaign, 2 others with the initials PB, the insignia of the far-right Proud Boys movement. Through the open windows, 3 Proud Boys flashed the OK sign with their hands, a gesture often associated with white supremacy and the far right. Trump's fans cheered. For men dressed in the signature black and yellow shirts of the Proud Boys spilled out of the SUV and began glad-handing the crowd like homecoming heroes. The Proud Boys are back. For years after the failed effort to overturn Trump's 2020 electoral defeat, the violent all-male extremist group that led the storming of Congress on January 6, 2021, is rebuilding and regaining strength as Trump campaigns to return to the White House. This resurgence is confirmed by interviews with 8 Proud Boys, to U.S. law enforcement officials, and for experts who track the group's online activity. Since the January 6 Capitol riot, 4 former Proud Boys leaders have been convicted in federal court of seditious conspiracy, each sentenced to 15 or more years in prison. At least another 70 members were charged with participating in the violence. But that crackdown hasn't stopped the Proud Boys. Some Proud Boys say they are preparing to emerge once again as a physical force for Trump, drawn to his hardline nationalism and convinced their leaders will be pardoned if he wins. Trump himself promises to pardon convicted January 6 rioters if he's elected. After last Thursday's historic guilty verdict against Trump, an Ohio Proud Boys chapter vowed war and posted a video of Proud Boy street brawls that ended with the message, "Fighting solves everything." A Miami chapter said, "Now, more than ever, we are recruiting." Some posted images of the upside-down American flag symbolizing the Stop the Steal movement that falsely claims Trump won the 2020 election. One Proud Boy told Reuters that America is in a period of calm before the storm. The group's main Telegram channel, however, posted a message urging Proud Boys to stay calm and not get drawn into a trap and risk arrest. Trump is, of course, getting railroaded, but we will not be walking into any honeypots over this. In recent weeks, the group has become more prominent at pro-Trump events, highlighting the risk of renewed violence in this year's presidential election. Dozens of Proud Boys, some in body armor and helmets, marked the 3rd anniversary of the January 6 insurrection with a show of force at the State House in Columbus, Ohio. On April 20th, nearly a dozen gathered at a rally for Trump's Republican campaign in Wilmington, North Carolina. More recently, groups of Proud Boys from 2 chapters mixed with tens of thousands of Trump supporters at a campaign rally in Wildwood, New Jersey, in May. On a boardwalk near the entrance of the Wildwood rally, several Proud Boys identified themselves as members of the New Jersey state chapter. One said they were there to provide security and stop agitators from disrespecting or assaulting everybody. Inscribed on his wraparound sunglasses were the initials POYB, short for Proud of Your Boy. He wore a ring with the initials PB and a black shirt with the yellow laurel wreath of the Proud Boys. 3 men from another chapter greeted them, their faces hidden by gator masks. It also comes when Trump's use of incendiary rhetoric is inspiring his supporters to target his opponents, including judges, prosecutors, and political rivals, in a wave of threats that's unprecedented in modern American politics. Trump himself has not ruled out the possibility of political violence if he loses in November. "If we don't win, it depends," he said when asked by Time magazine in April if he expected violence after the election. "If he's jailed or put under house arrest, I'm not sure the public would stand for it," he said in a Fox News interview that aired on Sunday. "At a certain point, there's a breaking point." Before the last election, Trump told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. 3 months later, federal prosecutors say, the group's leaders plotted and led the insurrection of the U.S. Capitol. Trump's baseless, rigged election claims inspired the gathering, and Trump himself urged the assembled crowd to march on the Capitol as Congress certified Democrat Joe Biden's victory. A spokesperson for Trump did not respond to questions for this story about his rhetoric, January 6th, and the Proud Boys. As the Proud Boys regroup, they've made changes designed to make them less vulnerable to law enforcement scrutiny, including doing away with layers of top leadership, according to interviews with members. The Proud Boys now operate with self-governing chapters in more than 40 states, with little apparent central coordination, members said. While the group's structure has changed, its Canadian founder remains an inspirational figure to today's Proud Boys. Gavin McInnes, a British-born far-right commentator who lives in New York, announced his resignation from the Proud Boys in 2018. But he remains deeply involved with the group, according to interviews with Proud Boys. When there are disputes, he mediates, one Proud Boy said. Daniel Hull, a lawyer who has represented Proud Boys, agreed. They'll take a lot of cues from Gavin McInnes. Over 3 interviews with Reuters, McInnes said he is not seeking a leadership role but that he communicates regularly with members, makes an appearance at some events and tries to resolve infighting. Some Proud Boys affectionately refer to him as a godfather. After McInnes stepped down, his successor, Henry Enrique Tarrio, raised the Proud Boys' profile, pulling them from the fringe of the far right toward the center of Trump-era Republican politics. Tarrio, a Floridian of Afro-Cuban descent, was sentenced last September to 22 years in prison for seditious conspiracy, defined as an effort by 2 or more people to overthrow the government or use force to hinder its operations, and other charges related to the Capitol riot. He has appealed. To criminal defense attorneys for Tarrio did not respond to emailed questions and phone calls. In the past, McInnes, Tarrio, and a group of leaders dubbed elders spoke publicly on the group's behalf, set the agenda, and guided its confrontations with left-wing groups around the country. They sat atop a formal structure and could disband Proud Boy chapters or expel members. Now, members say the chapters are largely independent of each other and ban communications with the media. Most members who spoke to Reuters for this report did so on condition of anonymity. The group's resilience has surprised some extremism experts. The amazing thing is that so many people from the Proud Boys can be in jail and yet you have these active chapters, said Heidi Beirich, co-founder of the nonprofit Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Traditionally, when the head of a neo-Nazi or white supremacist group goes to jail or dies, the organization will collapse, but that does not seem to be happening with the Proud Boys. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security declined to comment on the group's activities and whether authorities are monitoring the Proud Boys. A previously unreported 2020 Department of Homeland Security intelligence report, reviewed by Reuters, refers to domestic violent extremists identifying themselves as Proud Boys who are primarily engaged in violence against law enforcement and ideological opponents. It's not against the law to be a member and most Proud Boys haven't done anything illegal, it added. But, he added, after the Capitol riots, there would be no excuse this time not to take them seriously. Tip of the spear. At Tarrio's criminal trial, one Proud Boy described the group as foot soldiers of the right. Today, glorification of violence remains a core feature of the Proud Boys, as does unwavering support of Trump, according to interviews with current members. The Proud Boys describe their ideology as Western chauvinism, which they say is a deep embrace of Western civilization and traditions. Critics say the group uses the term Western rather than white to veil its racism, a charge the Proud Boys defenders deny. While the Proud Boys claim the group is a fraternal organization, in practice it promotes street violence against the left and trolls liberals, Democrats, feminists, transgender activists, and others they oppose. A handbook outlining Proud Boys rituals was revealed by prosecutors in 2023 as evidence in Tarrio's trial. The manual says that becoming a high-ranking Proud Boy requires engaging in a major conflict, including serious physical fights or getting arrested. A defense lawyer in the case argued that some of the document was merely sarcastic and politically incorrect. A Proud Boy prayer on an active website promoting a New Jersey chapter of the group puts it this way: "Strengthen us, brothers, with power and hard fists to help us defend the right and defeat the wrong." The same site says the Proud Boys don't support acts that violate criminal law. Federal prosecutors and a U.S. congressional investigation both named the Proud Boys as crucial plotters and leaders of the January 6th attack. The Proud Boys lined up behind Donald Trump and were ready to commit violence to keep him in power, prosecutor Conor Mulrow said during Tarrio's trial. They saw themselves, he said, as the tip of the spear in Trump's war to overturn the election. Afterward, federal authorities arrested scores of Proud Boys members and eventually convicted their leaders of seditious conspiracy, including Tarrio, his military wing commander, and to other top lieutenants. The group's reputation as Trump's army helped the Proud Boys recruit new members, according to the Anti-Defamation League, a civil rights group that monitors extremism. Since the trial, Proud Boys chapters have begun to shun overt displays of weaponry at public events to reduce the risk of arrest, experts and members said. Since May 2021, the group has clashed less with left-wing activists at public events and protests. According to a database maintained by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a nonprofit organization that tracks political violence around the world. Still, the number of Proud Boy chapters has steadily grown, experts said, including in politically critical states such as Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. Many Proud Boys are convinced Trump will pardon convicted January 6th rioters if he wins in 2024.